Daniella Mikanovsky is a fourth-year student at McMaster University in the Arts and Science program. She is really excited to continue her studies at the Osgoode Hall Law School in the fall of 2021. I'm really excited to be chatting with Daniella today about her experiences navigating the law school application process in Canada and her tips for people who are interested in applying to law schools in Canada and specifically Osgoode Hall. So my first question for Daniella is, which law schools did you apply to and which ones have you been accepted to so far?
Sure. Thanks so much for having me, first of all. So I applied to Osgoode. I also applied to U of Ottawa and to U of T. And I was accepted to Osgoode in December. I was accepted to Ottawa this past round in like late January, and I'm still waiting on Toronto.
Awesome, and congratulations.
Thank you.
So what was your law school application process like?
So the applications for law school were due like the 1st of November. And so up until then, the first thing I had to do was write the LSAT. So over the summer I was studying and I wrote it in the beginning of October. And at that point, I was starting to reach out to my references to make sure that I had letters of reference like lined up in advance so that they had the time to write those. I registered on OUAC, which is where the LSAT, where the law school application process like is all held. And then, going through it, you kind of, instead of submitting a CV, you have to just like add all of your experiences. So I kind of had to fill all those in and write the essays for each specific school. But once I did the LSAT, it was just a matter of like filling out the application. I got my results back like 3 weeks later, and they just get submitted directly to OUAC. And kind of keeping track of my process, checking in on my reference letter writers and making sure that all that was good. And yeah, by November, I had submitted all of it and was ready to go.
Awesome. And what do you think made you stand out?
So for me, like a really important thing was writing about why I wanted to be there, because you can say like, yeah, the law school is fantastic and they've got all these cool programs, but they already know that. So it was really important for me to be like, this is why I care to be at your school. This is why I'm a good fit. And talking about myself as someone in that law school, why my interests would be of value to them, and not just talking about like, I think it would be great if I got into, say, Osgoode because you guys have such a great law school. Like they already know that. They don't need to hear me say that. So my application was really focusing on like why I would succeed there on terms of my skills and passions and those kinds of things. And of course, like doing well on the LSAT kind of helped. So studying was also a really big part of that.
And is there anything that you wish you knew when you started the process?
So the first thing I wish I knew was that you kind of need to check in on the LSAT registration pretty early. I was under the impression that you could register about 4 weeks before and write the LSAT, but you actually have to register like 6 weeks. And so I was planning to write at the end of August, but I couldn't because I missed that deadline and had to write in October, which was like okay because I got the extra study time. But I think I would have actually done a little bit better if I had that really focused time as opposed to writing it while at the school year already started. And for people who are signing up a little later, you could miss the final deadline if you don't like keep track of those things. So it's really important to like register as soon as you know that you want to write the LSAT. And I would also, just asking your references letter early is really important because some of the professors and people you ask like might take their time, and you don't want to like give them the pressure of, hey, this is due in 2 weeks, please write this for me, because that is, first of all, not respecting their time, but also like you want to give them the time to write something good and ask you questions if they need to and those sorts of things. So it's really helpful to ask the reference letters early.
And what was your GPA upon applying to these law schools?
I had a 3.7 GPA.
And then in terms of like LSAT and other, I'm assuming the LSAT is the only standardized test that was required. What was your LSAT score, if you're comfortable sharing it?
Yeah, I scored a 169 on the LSAT. I was scoring like a point or two higher on my regular practices, but it's like normal to drop a few points on the actual test, but I scored a 169.
That's so awesome.
Thanks. Yeah, I was watching Legally Blonde and she got 179 and I was like, that's that's impossible. There's no way Elle Woods got that high. But yeah, I got me into Osgoode, so 169 was good enough.
And then in terms of like supplementary applications or the essay or personal statement component, how did you approach it? And what kind of tips would you have for someone who's looking to craft their statement or essay?
Yeah, so each school kind of has slightly different requirements, but they all kind of have the same general idea of like why this law school and why you are the main like questions that you are aiming to answer. And so what I did was I started with the school that had the longest essay, which I believe was Ottawa, and I wrote that essay and tried to, and I sat on it for a while, being like trying to make sure that I was capturing myself accurately, capturing the specific programs or clinics that I was interested in at that school that I thought would be like more that are things that I was specifically interested in, to give them an understanding that I had done the research into the law school. So that whole process took a little bit, but once I had written that first essay, I was able to, I kind of like went backwards. I went from the longest to the shortest, and I kind of adapted the things that I'd written, obviously doing research on the next law school and like kind of fixing it to be focused on the stuff at that law school. But that's kind of the process I did of going from the longest to shortest, and making sure I included why this law school was great, but specific things that I was interested in at that school, such as clinics and those sorts of things, and then why I would be a good fit there. So that's what I did.
Very cool. And my last question is, is there anything else that you would like our viewers of this channel to know based on your experiences, and maybe what your like top kind of tips would be for students that are interested in applying to these programs?
Yeah, I mean, kind of, if you're early on in the application process, like you're in first or second year and you're thinking, I want to go to law school, a lot of people are like, what classes should I take? I don't think it's important to take specific courses or whatever to prepare you for the LSAT or prepare you for law school, because I mean, what really matters is that you're taking stuff that you enjoy, and then you are succeeding in those classes because you're enjoying them. That's what I did in my degree. Is I didn't take classes because I thought they would get me a specific goal. I thought I was taking classes that I really cared about and was interested in, and that's what helped me succeed, because I cared about those classes. And then beyond that, I mean, just like taking the time to think about that application, like not starting it, 4 days before it's due, was helpful for me. And yeah, just thinking about doing a lot of research on the law schools, because I think it helps to be able to say like, I'm interested in this specific externship that the university offers, or the fact that your school is located in this city and has connections with these people, like the fact that Ottawa is in the capital and has a lot of connections with government. Those sorts of things can show that you've done the research on the school, and shows that you care to be there. So those are just a few of the tips that I have.
Cool. And sorry, I just thought of one more question that I maybe should have asked earlier, but in terms of extracurriculars in undergrad, like were you part of any kind of pre-law society extracurriculars, or what extracurriculars did you focus on highlighting in your applications?
Yeah, so I'll admit, I only actually decided to go the law school direction like late in third year. I know a lot of people have the plans a bit earlier, and it's okay if you don't have them until later, like I did. But so I wasn't involved in any pre-law programs or anything like clubs or anything like that. I actually started joining them after I wrote the LSAT, because a lot of schools have like at McMaster, the pre-law club had like, they bring in recruiters who can answer questions and stuff like that during the application process. So that kind of thing is really helpful. And so I recommend that when you're already in the application process. If you want to get involved with it sooner, that's cool. The mock trials seem like a cool way to get kind of experience in those sorts of things, but I didn't do any of that, so it's not essential. I was specifically involved with Hillel at my university, so that was what I wrote about. But I think if you just commit yourself to something, don't like spread yourself thin with like 10 different clubs. But I mean, you can do more than one thing, that you don't have to pick one. But by committing to something and taking on leadership roles in that, you're able to show more clearly how you have had an impact on a specific group, club, or if they've had an impact on you. If you're taking lots and lots of different things and spreading yourself thin, there's less opportunity to kind of be a leader in that club, whatever. So by really involving yourself in one or two things, you have the opportunity to show that you've grown over your time at university and that you are taking leadership positions and you're trying to like make an impact. So I talked about my experience at Hillel, and I guess it worked out for me.
Great. Thank you so much, Daniella, for taking the time to chat. And I'm sure that your insights will be helpful for our viewers. So yeah, thank you so much again.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I hope so. Best of luck to everyone. Hopefully I'll see you at Osgoode soon.
Take care. Have a good rest of the day.
Thanks. I'll see ya.